Hello and well met. This is Laren with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to be working with some maps and a little bit of combat, just kind of get you familiar with how to use the maps in Fantasy Grounds, and also to help you out with the combat tracker a little bit. And I think I'm going to kind of deconstruct as I go. Usually I start from beginning and work my way forward. I think this time I'm kind of already there towards the end, and I'm going to kind of work my way backwards. So at this given moment, I have a custom-made basement map that I threw together with some of the Fantasy Grounds Unity titles, stuff that you can buy, the tiles and the assets from the Fantasy Grounds art packs. On the combat tracker, I have 4 characters and 3 NPCs. They're already on the map. So this is one of the first things that you would do after you build a map, or you import one, or perhaps there's one in a module. So generally speaking, each player will have a character assigned to them, but since it's just me, I'm going to be controlling all the characters and the NPCs. So right now we're at round 1 in the combat tracker. I have Shayra. She's a female elf sorceress. I have Figano Fetch. He is a halfling rogue. I have Doric Rockfist. He's a fighter. And then I have Zamas, human barbarian. So these are the 4 characters. And then down below here in this other room are a couple thugs and an assassin. So it's could be a deadly encounter. So first thing you want to check for on a map that's already created is if you unlock it on the top right corner here, you want to take a look and see if the line of sight is active. So when you're in play mode, you have some options. You can turn those on or off. You can disable the lighting, you can disable line of sight, and that will make it so you can move through walls. Everyone can see. This is just so for explaining purposes. So just in case you get lost or you have a map that's not working, that's the first thing you want to check. So I'm going to turn these back on. So enable lighting, enable line of sight. The other thing I want to check is the actual line of sight button, which is this brick wall up here in the options. If I click that, you can see these red occluders. The red ones are the walls. Those actually block movement and light. This blue formation here is a door. I'll explain this stuff a little bit more in depth as we go, but essentially this is a very simple map. I have this out like this just for a reason, just so we can explain some of these things. The next thing is to check the lighting. So here in this particular list of layers, there are 2 segments here for torches. I can opt to turn those off, so when the players come into this basement, there might be a torch there, but it may not be lit. The other thing to keep in mind is that the players themselves might have line of sight, and they may have it because they have some sort of natural ability to see without any light source. So it depends on the character, but you can see Shayra here has dark vision of 60 feet on her character sheet. Or if she wanted to, if she had the spell, she can do a light spell. In this case, she doesn't have that spell prepared, but she could. So that would be another option for her. And then Doric has dark vision for being a dwarf, so on his character sheet, on the front, it would also say dark vision. So if that's on the character sheet or on the NPCs, they can see in the dark, essentially. So it's only black and white. So let's take a look at that. So right now I have the map in play mode, because that's the only way you can interact with these tokens. If I'm in the edit mode, like line of sight, I can't move the tokens around. So you have to be in play mode. And then again, I just turned off the line of sight. I'm going to turn it back on, and the lighting. And then I'm going to go to player preview. So if I click on that, you can see they can't see anything. and I have Dorig selected. So once I click on him, this will show his vision type and the type of sight he has because of his dwarven natural ability to see in the dark. So this is something that you'll have to get used to with characters or NPCs that have this type of vision. If I click on one of these, here's the human, you can't see anything. And the only reason I can see all these characters is because I'm the GM, so I kind of have an overview. So Shayra also has dark vision. Fetch does not. So as you click between these characters, the vision changes. It's very important to remember that. So if you're the GM and you're controlling a bunch of NPCs and you want to actually see what these guys are looking at, you can turn off this mode and you kind of get an overview. And the mode I'm talking about is enable or disable player vision preview. So if I click Control P, that shows what this player sees temporarily. Or I can turn it on permanently and then hit Control P just to get an idea of where we're at. So it just depends on how you want to run it or from what angle. So it's important to remember that you have to select the token that you want to look through their eyes. So if you are a player and you have more than one character, you have to switch between the tokens. The combat tracker does not switch the vision. So if I go to the next actor, it doesn't change the vision. I'm still looking through Figgins' eyes. So if I click on that thug, I don't see anything. If I click on this other thug, nothing. Even the assassin, nothing. That's because they're all humans and they don't have any dark vision. However, that doesn't rule out that they might have some sort of other senses, such as hearing. So don't forget that there are other smell, feel, those are other sorts of ways that they can detect. So they probably hear the characters coming down the stairs. If I turn this, go back to Figgin here, or Shayra in this case, there's a staircase that they came down. It's likely that they might have made noises. They may not have been stealthy. Now, for this torch, since it's off right now, we could opt to light it. So let's say Figgin says, let's put a little light on the subject. So he's going to move closer to the torch. And I could turn this on depending on which one is assigned. So in this case, this torch is on now. So there was a light on it. So if I go to the lighting tool, you can see there's this little light bulb. So I assign that to this actual image. So when they go to this room, you don't have both lights on at the same time. You can independently turn those on or off. But it depends on what your need. Some people just want one switch where you can turn all the lights on or off, or you can independently assign those. So right now, that's what I've got this light on. So in play mode, if I go to the player preview, that's what they're seeing. Now, if I click on one of these other player characters, they're not going to see the same exactly, but they can see better because there's torchlight. So that's just how lighting can work if it's set up properly. The other thing is you might have a light spell, those sort of things. So just depends on what your usages are in the situation. But just remember to always click on the actual token if you want to see their actual vision. So it's important that you do that. You can't hardly tell right now because we have plenty of ambient light. But if I turn off that torch, now when I select these other guys that don't have dark vision, I get this kind of like this little preview of what the map looked like before I turn the light off. That's because they've already been in this room. They've moved around. They know what it looks like. So it's kind of like muscle memory. It's almost like a fog of war. So that's just something you need to keep in mind when you're running a game, is keep track of what vision you're looking through, especially if you're the GM and you have multiple NPCs. You want to click on that NPC so you can see what they're looking at. Otherwise, you're not really going to know. And if you turn off the player preview mode, it's even kind of harder to tell. That's why I keep it on this mode, because with the washed out gray background, it's hard to see the overview of the vision. So I have to turn that on. Just kind of, I can go with Control P to get a preview. That's essentially what he sees without any sort of light source. So I'm going to move this guy over. If you need to move precisely and you're worried about going too far or something, you can use the arrow keys once you have a token selected. That's another way you can check to see if you have your token selected. Just hit one of the arrow keys and it will let you move around in increments of 5 feet. You can move diagonally, but you have to use the number lock key or the diagonal keys. So this would be the 10 key, would give you the diagonal movement. It's better to use that than just the regular arrow keys. I mean, I can't move through that middle wall there. That's because of the occluders. So if I turn on the line of sight, see, I can't, that's blocking movement and light. So this allows for you to kind of quarantine off certain areas so that people can't just walk all over the place. And this provides shadow for the assassin. So when those players come through that door, they'll be able to see part of the room, but they won't see the assassin because it's blocking the vision. Let's check that out. So we're going to say that I'm going to start this thing over. So I'm going to go all the way back. We're still at round 1. So I'm going to go to the menu and go to initiative. I'm going to roll initiatives all over again for everybody. And now that I've done that, Vigan is the first one to go. He lights that torch, and then he ends up moving. I want to make sure that I'm in play mode, and I select the token. And then I will move the token according to his movement. So he can move at least 25 feet. So he's going to move there and stop, and he's going to try to hide. So I'm going to put the hide action on him. Just so I have a placeholder type thing and a notation. And I'm going to roll a stealth check. So he just moved over there. Try to move silently. So I'm going to ask him to roll in the dice tower. So this player has elected to move silently after they lit the torch. They're moving over to the wall here. And I'm going to move and grab the stealth on here. I want to make sure it's the right character. So I got Vigan here. So got his sheet up. And I'm going to put the hide action on. And then he already has these 2 regular abilities or racial abilities activated. One is brave, one's naturally stealthy. These are pretty much just notes. They don't really do much, but they just kind of remind you. And then the other thing is that these are one of those things where it's ongoing. You don't have to keep turning it on or off unless your GM needs you to. So these are passive abilities, essentially. So the rogue is going to be here. I'm going to go to his skills tab as a player. And I'm going to drag and drop the stealth roll into the dice tower for the DM. So I'm going to grab this +7, which is the total. Drag and drop that into the dice tower. So he rolled a total of 20 with his bonus. So if this is the GM, I can drag and drop this roll into this area here, into the shortcuts area, so I remember what the number to beat is. So that's that. The assassin, all those guys, their passive perception isn't high enough to notice them. So passive perception of 13 is the highest one. Thugs are even less. So as far as I know, I'll just say that in my mind as the GM, I know that Vigan is hidden, or at least he's not noticed yet. So he's going to pass his turn. So I'm going to do that by clicking on Next Actor. And now it goes to Doric. And as you can see, he's highlighted, but that does not necessarily mean that I'm looking through his vision. So if I click on the token, this is him and his own unique vision. So he already has his passive abilities on. He's got like resist poison, or resilience to poison. He's going to go up to the door and listen. So I'm going to try to move silently or as quietly as we can and go up to the door and listen. So first of all, he's going to move. So you only move 15 feet, and that's the max you can move when you're trying to be stealthy. So he's up at the door. Going to have him roll a perception check. And I'm going to say secretly that if he rolls well, he'll notice some breathing or some kind of noise on the other side. But I first want to roll his stealth. He'll probably have a penalty because of his armor. So I'll drag and drop that into the dice tower. And yes, he's rolling at disadvantage. He rolled a 20 and a 13, but he got a 14. That's pretty good. So he's quiet enough to where he's not making a bunch of noise with his armor. He doesn't quite know that, but he does get the impression that no one's on the other side of the door yet. And now I'm going to actually go to the perception roll, have him drag and drop that, and that'll be his turn, essentially. So in the dice tower, he rolls perception. Yeah, he rolled a 13. That's not bad. So he doesn't really hear anything on the other side, but he does think that maybe someone's on the other side of the door. So he's moved already. He's done an action, and he's done 2 actions, actually, or 2 skills. So he's done with his turns. I could allow him to test the door, but he's already taken his turn, so I'm going to go ahead and advance. So the assassin knows that somebody's out there. So he's going to remain hidden, or she in this case. I double-click on her token. It brings up her stat block. She has assassinate, evasion, sneak attack. She gets to make 2 attacks with the short blades. Gives a light crossbow. And she has stealth of +9. So I'm going to drag and drop that into the dice tower. Oh wow, she rolled a 1. So what I'm going to say in this case is that she went to go lean up against this stalagmite or this block of stone. She rubbed on it, or touched it actually, and some of the stone crumbled away. It made some noise. So now the characters know there's somebody on the other side. And the other 2 thugs are like, crap. There goes the element of surprise. So much for the assassin. So she's going to sit there, pull out her blades, and wait to see what happens. So she's going to pass her turn. But if anyone comes close to her, she's going to attack with her blades. So this thug is going to move up, pull out his weapon. He's got a mace, or in this case, a heavy crossbow. So he's going to pull that out and just wait to see what happens. So hold his turn. If anyone comes through that door, he's going to blast him. Shayra says, "What was that?" Kind of says it quietly. So I'm going to go to her spell list, take a look at what she has prepared. So in her list here, she has mage armor, so I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that onto her. That gives her an additional +3 to her armor class. And then I'm going to have her move in line with the door. So if anything happens, she's ready to attack with it. I'll have her move up 1 square. That's it. So that's her turn. She cast a spell. She moved a little bit, and she's declaring what she wants to do. So she's essentially not holding her action, but she's stating what she's trying to do. So that is her turn. So the next is the thug. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So he backs up a little bit. So he goes over here to this square here, pulls out his mace, getting ready to bump somebody if they come through the door. So he is actually readying an action. Zamas, on the other hand, says, we might as well check it out. So he squeezes by Dorig. He's going to lose 5 feet because of that. He moves into the room. So I went ahead and opened the door. And if I look at the player preview, this is what he sees. There's absolutely nothing right now. Figgin actually did turn on that light, so I'll do that, because that was supposed to be on. And I'm going to move him over. So he goes here, here, and here. As soon as he gets there, both the thugs get their attacks. They get a kind of like an opportunity attack, but they held their turn. So the thug number 1, he moves up and he tries to hit Zamas with his mace. So thug number 1, if I go to his attacks in the combat tracker, he's got a mace, so he's going to go ahead and try to thump the barbarian. And he gets more than one attack. So the first swing missed, and now the second swing. Second time he connected, so he's kind of like attacking in the dark almost. It's very, very dim, but he's able to connect at that time with the mace. He comes down hard on Zamas' shoulder. And Zamas grunts in pain, but it doesn't do a lot of damage because he's kind of, I wouldn't say immune, but pretty tough. He only took 3 points of damage. So now that it's Zamas' turn, after the other thug lets loose his bolt, and he only gets one attack with the crossbow. So that thug is going to his offensive here, going to get a +2, drag and drop it onto Zamas. That's a 15, so here's this click, and there's like a popping sound as the bolt goes through the dark and connects and thumps him, probably right in the chest or the shoulder. So if I drag and drop the damage, yeah, so that really hurt. So that bolt just sunk itself down into his skin. So he's howling in pain. And now he's going to go into a rage. So Zamas is angry. So I bring up his sheet. And on his sheet is a coded effect, which is this Barbarian Rage. So I'm going to click on one of the buttons that's been set up for this. And this is a custom effect. This doesn't normally come with the characters, just so you know that. You have to build these or get them from someone else. So I have the rage function, and now I'm going to click on it because it's a bonus action. So he is now raging. And since this is his first attack and he's really angry, I'm going to do the reckless attack. So it gives him a higher chance to hit. And if I read the description, you throw away kind of your defenses and you just kind of go off. So that's what he's doing in this first attack. So he has his battle axe. He's carrying it two-handedly. He's going to hit the thug that's next to him in melee range. So I'm going to drag and drop the attack roll onto this thug. It likely will hit, but we'll see. So yeah, he rolled a total of 20. And now for the damage. So for the battle axe, ouch. So it did 12 points of damage on that thug. So that axe comes down and nearly severs his arm off. So that essentially is his turn. And now that he's done with that turn, as far as the effects go, going to get rid of the reckless attack, and then that will be the end of his turn. He's just moved in. I'm going to have him move here, not out of the range, but he's still in melee range, so he doesn't get an opportunity attack against him. Now I'm going to pass the turn. So Figgin is going to stay put for now. He's going to ready an action. He pulls out his crossbow, and I'm just going to have him move down to this square here, and he's just going to prepare himself for any problems or anything. So his trigger is if someone comes through this area here, he's going to shoot him with his bow. So in his actions here, he's got naturally stealthy and brave, so he's pretty much hidden. I don't think I'm going to have him re-roll his stealth because he only moved 5 feet and he's not really doing anything other than switching his weapon from the short blade to the short bow, and he's going to knock an arrow and prepare for the next round. So he's going to hold tight. Alright, so Dorg's going to move in. He sees that thug over here, so he is going to pull up his arsenal here of weapons in the Actions tab. And he has a fighting style defense, so I want to put that on him because that's part of his features. He's got his shield on, so I'll leave that. And I'm going to do an attack roll. So I'm going to take and drag and drop the battle axe, using it one-handedly, onto the thug. And he rolled a 20. That's a critical hit. So to make this even crazier, I might even do another attack depending on how much damage this does. So his battle axe is going to do a total of, did 8 points of damage, so it's heavy damage on this guy. Now he's going to take his second wind, or his, in this case, his, yeah, he doesn't have the other, I thought he had an action surge, but he doesn't. So that was the end of his turn. So that thug is hurting. So that guy screams in pain as that battle axe comes down on him. And Dorg is going to actually move here to not open himself up so that in case anyone wants to come through that door, they got a clean break there. So he just kind of steps through the battle area, and that's the end of his turn. So now the assassin gets to go. So the assassin is the one that made all that noise. The party members know he's there. Assassin can't see, but he can hear what's going on, or she can. So I'm going to have him do a sneak attack, but first we're going to do stealth. So on the NPC stat block, there is an assassinate. So during its first turn, the assassin has advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn. So that hasn't happened, so the conditions aren't met. If the assassin is subject to an effect, okay, so he has evasion. We're just going to try to set up a regular sneak attack. So I'm going to drag and drop stealth to the dice tower. At 27 beats their passive perception any day, hands down. So the assassin's going to move. And he sees Thomas here. So I'm going to hold down the control key. And then I'm going to target Zomus. So by doing that, I get to see how far away it is, and the Zomus is now targeted. So now he's going to make a sneak attack. So nobody noticed that the assassin was there, stepped out behind that thing. Now the assassin gets a -2 because he's shooting through stuff and it's dark and dim. But he might be rolling here for a sneak attack, so let's see what happens. So the sneak attack does an extra 14 points, or 4d6 times 4, so we'll see what happens. So I'm going to do the attack roll with a light crossbow. So I'm going to take the attack roll, drag and drop it onto Zomus. And it missed. So just click, pop, and it hits the back of the wall behind him. It goes right over his shoulder. So that assassin missed, so she's going to move back out of sight. That's her turn. Thug number 2 is going to target Zomus. And like I said, they're using a crossbow. And that's a missile. Click, pop, and it just kind of sails through the doorway there. It almost hits Shayra, but it goes harmlessly over her head. So that was the assassin's turn. I think he's going to move back. And then that's going to be his turn, essentially. And he's going to let the other assassin know that he's attacking the barbarian. So Shayra, being as curious as she is going to be, he's going to move forward. She didn't know the assassin was there, but she saw her companions fighting him, so it's no big surprise. And I want to take a look at what she can do so she can basically hurt this individual. So, well, she has magic missiles, so I'm going to go ahead and use those. So I'm going to target him with 1, so just they're automatic damage. So I'm going to just drag 1 here. She gets 3. So there's that. There's one. There's two. And her last one. So she did a little bit of damage to that guy. So she blasted him. And then she's going to hang tight and go on the defensive now. But she knows she's opened herself up to attack. So got to be prepared for that. So this thug was startled by her sudden appearance and how he got blasted right in the chest by 3 purple magic missiles. So he's going to turn to her and swing his mace aggressively. So his first attack, he comes through and he misses. So she's able to effectively just sidestep his attack. He's getting kind of tired. He's losing a lot of blood right now. And his second attack comes in. Let's see what happens there. So as he's swinging, he comes back with a backswing and it doesn't do anything. Shayra's able to dodge out of the way, no problem. So his movements are getting rather sluggish at the moment. He's kind of losing this battle, so to speak. All right, now it's Zamas' turn. So Zamas kind of goes after this thug that tried to shoot him, but he's going to open himself up to an opportunity attack. So he doesn't care because he's in rage mode right now. So this thug gets an open opportunity attack. So if you want to do an opportunity attack in Fantasy Grounds, if you don't know the shortcut keys or whatever, you can go to the plus or minus modifiers, click opportunity, and he gets a single attack on Zamas because he moved out of the threat zone there. So this particular thug, number 1, I'm going to drag and drop the mace attack onto Zamas. And he missed. So just as Zamas was stepping away, he tried to do a lunge at him with an attack and missed. So Zamas is he's already in rage mode. He's going to swing that big heavy battle axe on top of this other thug. So I drag and drop this. I can do it either in the dice tower or on the map. It just depends on what you want to do. This is thug number 2. I got to make sure I drag it to the right one. So if I go to his character sheet and see this attack roll, I can drag and drop it onto the thug number 2, and that is a critical hit, friend. And now I'm going to drag the damage onto this as well. Fantasy Grounds automatically knows when to do that. So that's heavy damage, so he really chopped this guy up. And that hurt. So the rage is helping a little bit. Keeps the damage down, but it makes him go crazy. So that's his turn. So I'm going to pass it. So Figgin is going to sneak his way around into the battle. So I'm going to have him move in. So I want to make sure I click on his token. I'm going to go ahead and move. And he can only pass through this a fellow character, which is in this case just happens to be Shayra. That's about as far as he can move. He's not really stealthy at this point. So what he's going to do is he's going to go ahead and attack thug number 1 with a short blade. So he rapidly switches weapons, comes around this corner, he sees the thug there fighting with Shayra. Doesn't want her to get hurt or anything. So he's going to take his short blade and kind of stab in with a poking action, kind of like come in and thrust with the blade. So he makes his attack kind of like an advance with his blade, and the thug is just happens to be in the right position where he can kind of twist and get out of the way. So Figgin's first attempt at attacking him missed, so that's his turn. So I'm going to advance the tracker, and now it goes back to Dorig. So Dorig is still doesn't know the assassin is right there. No one does at this point. But Dorig is going to go ahead and use a second wind. No, he doesn't need to. He's not even hurt yet. So I'm just going to have him do a regular strike. So he's going to take his battle axe again, bring it up and over his shoulder and swing as hard as he can onto this thug. This time, he's able to hit. He got advantage on that roll, so I'm not sure why, but I think it's because of flanking. So now that he has that, I'm going to have him roll the damage. So, no. And yes, so he took this thug out. So on the combat tracker, the thug that's down, it says unconscious and prone. So since this isn't really an important NPC or anything like that, I'm just going to delete it from the combat tracker. The reason I'm doing that, because I don't plan on reviving him, and on top of that, it clutters up the combat tracker to have players that are dead or wounded or hidden. So I'm just going to delete him and then move on to the next turn. So Dorig, now it's the assassin. The assassin is going to try one more time. So she moves out. She has a few targets here. So I'm going to do an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So 1 to 2, it's Shayra. 3 to 4, it's Vigan. 5 to 6, it's Dorig. I'll just roll this in the dice tower. So Shayra. So she's got Zamas targeted. So I want to hold down the control key and click again. That untargets him. And now I'm going to target Shayra. So now I'm going to attack. So she's got her light crossbow. So all I have to do is double click since she's targeted. And that is a hit. So I need to do the damage. So I'm going to put the effect on her, which gives her the extra damage. And then I should have done that before, but I didn't have the thing determined. So it says 4d6 damage. So I did the wrong damage to her, so I'll have to take that off. But essentially, I didn't handle it the right way. But I go ahead and just roll the damage. All that damage, ouch. So Shayra is down. And then on top of that, Shayra would have had to make a save. But since she got pierced to death, basically, I'm going to put the poison on her. Poison damage. So Shayra is dead. So she took Shayra out. So Shayra is gone. The poison got to her. Nobody has a spell to revive her. So she's essentially gone. So that's her turn is over. But now the assassin is exposed. So assassin's going to move back out of range here. And Shayra is no longer with us. So deleted her token. And did I get rid of her? Yep. So Shayra got handed to her. So that essentially is how that combat was resolved there. And then once the assassin realized that she was successful, she's kind of gloating to herself and glee, but she knows her up and comings is coming. So the next thug turns to his mace, since he doesn't have the range anymore. Gets 2 attacks with the mace, so he's going to go for 2 attacks on Barbarian. So the first strike comes up successful, and it lands right on his shoulder. It does a little bit of damage, but rage effect is reducing that damage. Now for the second strike, the thugs get 2 attacks with the mace. So in that case, he missed. So Zamas was able to bring his blade up or the handle of his battle axe, kind of block that mace attack. So now it's Zamas' turn. So Zamas is essentially just going crazy and just swinging wildly. So I'm going to have him take his battle axe again, and it's got to do like an overhand swing on this thug. And he's able to connect. So that might do this guy in if it does enough damage. So take this, drag and drop it on the thug. Didn't do as much damage. It rolled a 1 plus a strength bonus, so it did 6 points. That thug is pretty hurt. He's got like 28 out of 33, so party's doing okay even though they lost one of their valuable members. So Figgin is upset about what happened, so he is going to try to outwit the assassin. So he's going to move silently. So he moved up and have him roll stealth. And he's going to try to assassinate the assassin. So moves up. He's next to one of his allies, and he's kind of got a blocked vision here. So if I go back here, assassin can't see him very well. He's actually blocked by this piece of stone wall. And on his character sheet, if I go to his skills tab, I'm going to roll. If he rolls past 14, should be good. So I'm going to go to stealth, drag and drop it into the dice tower if we were actually playing. Yeah, so he rolls an 18. So she doesn't know exactly where he is. She knows he's over there somewhere, but she doesn't see him yet. So that's his turn. He's just effectively just kind of waiting for his opportunity. So he pulls out his bow, and he's going to wait and see what happens. So that's his turn. Okay, Dorig is noticing how deadly that blow was. So Dorig is going to actually move up. He's no fool. And he's going to pull out his, essentially he's going to pull out his missile weapon. So he's got a crossbow. And he's going to hold up right there because he saw what happened to Shayra, so he's no idiot. And he says, "Come out wherever you are. If I find you or get you, I'm going to take you out." So Dorig is going to intimidate. I'm going to try to scare this assassin out, or at least warn her. So I'm going to say if he rolls a 15 or higher, he might do something. So I'm going to roll for the intimidation. Put it in the dice tower. It rolled a 4. So he's just blowing hot air, basically. So the assassin's kind of snickering to herself, "Whatever, dwarf." So the assassin isn't going to move. I think she's going to wait. So she's going to move up to here. And she's just going to hang tight. So I'm going to have her roll stealth. And see what it comes up with. So she steps up closer to that wall. Oh my god, she rolled a 1 again. So again, she tries to make herself blend in with this wall. And it comes crumbling down. And the other guy said, "We heard that." So she's not stealthy at all. They know she's right around the corner. So she just kind of feels defeated. She pulls out her long sword, or short sword, and hopes for the best. So she's going to stay put. She knows that she's not any match for these three. So thug number 2, he heard that noise and he's kind of cringing like, "Oh my god, you are the noisiest assassin I've ever met." So he's going to take his mace and again attack. He misses the barbarian, but he gets the second attack on Figgin. So he sees Figgin there going into position, and he says, "Oh no, you don't." So he strikes over at Figgin, and he hits, and he does a total of 8 points of damage. So Figgin's like, "Oof," so that hurt. But now it's Zamas' turn. So Zamas says, "Yo, don't hurt my friend." So he's going to again swing his battle axe. And this time, he's just able to connect and hit. See what kind of damage he does this time. Oh yeah. So he took that guy out. That thug is on the ground bleeding. So I'll just get rid of that token. And now Zamas is moving forward. Doesn't see that assassin anywhere. It's pretty dark in here though. So if I go to this, you can see they can't really see very well. So now Figgin goes. So Figgin is going to, instead of trying to stalk this assassin, he's going to go to his inventory I'm going to pull out a potion. I believe he has one. Yeah, he has one potion of healing. So I'm going to drag and drop the heal function onto himself here. So that did it healed him for 8 points, which has helped. That took care of that. So I'm going to check on the little link here, or the button. That gets rid of that. He's going to stay there. I'm going to have a short blade out, and he's going to wait and see what happens. So Dorig is going to move over 1 square. He says, I know you're just around that corner. So I'm going to see if he can actually see this individual. Oh yeah, he sees her. So she was waiting to see what happens. So she's going to fire a volley at him, but it's not going to be a sneak attack because he knows she's there. So she's going to get her waiting attack or whatever, her held action. So if I go to her sheet, or if I go to her offense here, just going to have her roll the crossbow, but she's going to have a -2 because it's partial cover. So -2, and then I'm going to drag and drop the attack roll onto Dorig. So she tries, and she misses. So, but it's a hit, even with the penalty. She even rolled disadvantage, and still got that. So now Dorig is going to take this top damage from the rogue. So let's see how much damage he gets. So that. So took a little bit of damage, and now for the poison. Now the poison, he gets advantage on poison, so it resists poison. Advantage on saving throws. So I'm going to click advantage, and then I'm going to drag the saving throw onto him. So this is important. So here's the advantage. Here's the saving throw. And he saved. And now I'm going to roll the damage. And it's half on a save. And plus he has resistance, so we'll see what kind of damage it actually does. Okay. Forgot that's the wrong dice. I actually drug over the wrong thing. Here's the damage, so let's see what happens. So he partially resisted, so he only took like half damage there, so that's not too bad. It still infected him, but not as bad. So that's cool. And now for the assassin. So the assassin is going to have to make a move. So she's either going to evade or attack. I think she's going to attack, so she's going to move forward. She's going to attack Dorig with her short blades. I believe she gets a multi-attack. Yeah, she gets 2. So I will have her attack. So short blade. There's the first attack. She missed. I wonder why she's getting disadvantage all the time against him. He must have an effect on him. And then I'm going to have her roll again for attack roll, because the first one missed, obviously. Oh, she rolled a 1. So she actually dropped her blade. So she's not going to move anymore. She's going to use the rest of her turn recovering her blade. So that's her turn. Now Zamas's turn. So he comes up. He moves around the corner here. And he sees the assassin there trying to get Dorig. So he just uses his rage and just kind of goes off on her. So he takes his battle axe. And that's a hit. Let's see what kind of damage he does. He rolls a lot of 1s on his damage, but he's able to connect. So he did 6 points of damage. Not too bad. So Figgin is going to wait for an opportunity. He is going to move back 1 square so he can have some range. He's going to move up 1 square. So and then he's going to have his bow out. Going to wait for his opportunity. So I want to see if he can actually see what's going on. So he doesn't have a direct vision on her. So let me double check that. Control P. Yeah, he can see her. Let's see. Yeah, she's visible. So he's going to get a -2. So -2. He's going to try to do a sneak attack. So see what happens. So he's going to first make the attack. He's at -2. So 17 -2. I think that's a hit. And plus he got a dex bonus in there. And now I'm going to activate the sneak attack. So 2d6 additional. Now I'm going to actually roll the damage. So with that short bow, I'm going to grab this and put all those dice. So yeah, so he was able to snipe her. So that's pretty cool. And then he steps back out of the way here. He doesn't want her to get an attack on him. So that's his turn. And now Dorig, he's going to, well, he's got this little thing in the way, so he's going to jab through here. But he's going to try to swing through that area. So there's a little piece of stalagmite or something there. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and have him do his offense here. So go to his actions. Going to use his battle axe. He keeps getting advantage. I don't understand why. What's going on? Oh, hidden. That's why. He's not hidden. So hidden. Yeah. There we go. So even with that, he's still hit. So it's fine. And that gives the opportunity for damage. So let's see what we get here. Oh yeah, 9 points of damage. So that's hurt pretty good there. He does have second wind, so I'm going to have him use that as a bonus action. I'll drag and drop that onto him. And that heals him almost all the way back, but that uses a second wind. So, but at least he's able to use it, not waste it. So that's his turn. And now she sees that she's kind of in a tough spot. So I think she's going to give up. So she drops her weapons and says, "I give." She's going to hope to live to fight another day kind of thing. So he doesn't want to go out like that. So I'm going to roll to see if the group is going to go for that. So they're kind of mad that she killed. I'll roll a percentage maybe. So percentage die. I'm going to say anything over 70, they're going to say hell no. So 70% chance or lower that they'll go with it. Yeah, they go ahead and say, okay, fine. So she gave up the ghost there and said, okay, I'm done. She drops her weapons, and everybody's happy for the moment. So we're going to turn on this torch so we can see what's going on. And now that the rogue is going to come over and tie her up, Zamas is going to make sure that nothing happens, and same with Doric. So they tie her up. They're going to get her out of here. But essentially, that's how the combat goes. You got to use the terrain to your advantage, but also you want to use different tactics and such. I wasn't really trying to make this a combat tutorial, but I just want to give you an idea of what the line of sight can do and what some of its shortcomings a little bit. And if I turn on the line of sight, you can see this little area here. This small area between these 2 points is a choke point. So it's really hard to move your token through there. So if you move, you kind of get stuck sometimes. So if you're a GM and you're making a map, try not to make these little narrow choke points. You don't want to make them any narrower than 5 feet unless that's your intention. So this makes it harder to move through. Fortunately, it's just enough room to squeeze by. Who? Alright, so this is who this is. So Dorig is going to basically, he lit the torch, they got the assassin tied up. So that's essentially how you can use these things here. So it's using the arrow key to click on the token and use it to move around. And then you see if I shut the door, it cuts the light off from the other room. So they're going to ask the assassin questions and all kinds of stuff. So they're going to do an interrogation. They're going to camp out here for about an hour. They're going to rest. So I'll give them a short rest. So if I go to the menu and go to rest, I can do a short rest. And then anyone who wants to roll their natural ability to heal, which is their hit die recovery, I'm going to go ahead and do that for Zamas. So he is no longer raging, but I'm going to go ahead and do his hit die recovery. So I just double click. And he recovers 8 out of 16. 14. So he got a total of 5 damage left, which is better than nothing. So he's kind of taking it easy as the assassin and binding his wounds while the assassin is gagged and bound. And, you know, they're kind of just trying to decide what they want to do with the assassin afterwards. But essentially, that's what, you know, kind of an idea of how things might go in a combat in Fantasy Grounds. It takes practice to get used to the maps. Just remember that you need to know which token you're on, because it changes the vision. So if you can see here, I'm actually clicking on all the different tokens, and it changes the view. So if you're on Figgins' token and you're moving the assassin or this human around, if you don't have it claimed, it's not going to show the correct vision. So that's why you want to click on it before you do anything. Also, when you're targeting, you have to, as a GM, you have to click on the token first to claim it or to highlight it, and then you hold the Alt or the Control key, and then that gives you the targeting here. If you don't, you'll target yourself essentially. And to unselect, you just repeat it. That gets rid of the targeting. You'll notice in the combat tracker too, that's how you can check. It'll say targets assassin. If you take it off, it removes it. The other way you can target is in the combat tracker. So there's a little target symbol. And if you drag this little target here, you can drag and drop it onto either in this map or in this. You can do it through the map or you can do it through here, the combat tracker. So this can be dropped onto the assassin. And when you want to clear the targets, there's a clear targets button. So now nobody's targeted. So that's kind of the different things that you'll have to learn as a player and a GM. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you are a player or even a GM that gets to play occasionally, it's helpful to have some of your player character things in the abilities and such in the shortcuts. So for instance, if I was playing Zamas, let me bring up his sheet here. So this is his initiative roll, so I would drag and drop that to the hotkeys. That way, when I just the two pass my turn, I also take this next actor or turn complete button and also put that in the hotkeys. So just having those 3 or 4 hotkeys will speed things up. So you're not having to flip back and forth between the pages as much. You still have to go back to your skills tab occasionally, but it's better than nothing because you're going to be spending most of your time on this actions tab, and to keep going back to the main page or your skills tab is kind of a pain. So that's why I put these shortcuts on the bottom. So if you want to roll initiative, you just single click. If you want to, you can just single click or drag it into the hotkeys from that location. And it'll work that way too. So that's just a tip for players. Speed up things, and especially it's mostly your common things that you're going to use all the time. You don't want to shortcut attack rolls. They tend to change and get modified, and that doesn't get picked up in the shortcut. And then if you use a missile weapon in the shortcut keys, it doesn't deduct the ammunition. So don't use attack rolls or shortcut keys. It's just mainly skill checks, initiative, that sort of thing. Also remember that if you do a shortcut down here, you have to update it occasionally. So if your character goes up in level and you decide an ability score increase, and let's say you get a dex bonus. So if my dex goes up, so I need to redrag that shortcut because it's no longer valid at that point. It's one here. Now if I don't update it and I use this initiative roll down here, it's going to be the old number. It doesn't have a +2 modifier. So you have to do that occasionally when you level up, or if you get something that is going to create a bonus for you, or perhaps you might have a ring or something important that changes that. So just keep that in mind as a player and a GM. The shortcuts have to be updated occasionally, especially if they're rolls. They're not, they don't level up with your character, essentially. So you have to make a new shortcut once in a while. Usually when you level up like to level 4, or if you get a magic item or something like that, that's the only time you have to worry about it. I think that's enough babbling for today. I hope that helps you guys. This will be on YouTube.